Yeah, look, as a neutral, I was even very confused. But I know, Jamie, you're like, oh, you don't have rugby knowledge. But I did find it very confusing. I was like, hang on a second. So, Dylan, I will agree with you on that. But look, speaking of Farrell, he has been criticised for his attitude and language to the referees throughout this tournament. So is it time that we start to see the disrespect and backchat punished with a card? Jamie, what do you make of that?
No,
Dylan.
Faz he's a fantastic player, very competitive bloke, very proud captain of his country. I thought he played very well on the weekend as well. Is he disrespectful with the way he approaches refs? I don't think so. I think he's just he's very competitive. He desperately wants to win. I don't see him as a disrespectful player in one bit. I just think he's a real strong competitor, and he's been a wonderful, leader for England. I don't think there's a conversation to be had there with disrespect with Owen, because I think he's a real respectful player.
But just take Owen out of it.
The question around the language, like he's not swearing at referees, is he? Like if he's swearing at referees, there's an issue. But I see him as no different to Johnny Sexton. I see him as no different to Dan Biggar. Like these guys they're like albatrosses. They've got wings all game. They're like this. They're always at it. They're always competing. So do you know what? I think it's it ties in with his post-match interview. Like he's damned if he does and he's damned if he don't. Like he comes across on TV and he doesn't complain about any of the decisions, and people hang him out to dry about that. Like they want to see him rise. But do you know what? I thought it took quite a big, I don't know, just sort of really good of him, like really stoic to just park it, not blame the ref, just say we're going to look at ourselves, look at our own discipline. And people saying, why isn't he showing emotion? Why isn't he kind of saying that the reffing decisions were terrible? So I think there's a bit of a prejudice against Owen, which probably isn't fair. And the only reason I'm quite passionate about this has probably happened with me as well. People just assume and make their own opinions, which is, I don't know what I'm talking about. Let's take the mic.
Well, no, just on what you said there, Dylan, I suppose I thought fair play to Eddie and Owen, because they did refuse to be drawn into it in the post-match interviews. And since then, Gozer has admitted that he got both the decisions wrong. So
yeah, obviously just going back to like Faz, when he did his post-match interview, everyone is like, there's all like little memes of him and stuff like that, like look out. But he's obviously gutted. They just lost a test match where he felt like, they got to a place in the second half where it was so close and they could, kicked on and won. So you can't have a go at the guy for actually being gutted that he lost a test match. Like the boys are saying, he's like ultra competitive. He wants to win, and he's just gone and lost a test match. So like he's bound to be like, obviously like absolutely tamping with what's just happened. But he's not like Dill said, he's not just going out there and blaming everyone else. He just talked about how they obviously need to control what they control and get better for the next match and that sort of thing. But yeah, I think he couldn't have won in that situation.
And then there's people fuming about the questions that Sonia posed to him, and then people are fuming about his response to them. It's like, I thought Owen dealt with the questions perfectly, like any captain would, like Alun dealt with them. And Sonia, again, is doing her job and probing and trying to get some sort of reaction. But, it's two professionals going head to head, and they're both kind of, she asked the questions, he answered them, move on. And then there's all this blowback about it, which is mental.
Fair enough. Well, Alun Jones was heroic once more as a leader and on the pitch. So is the Lions captain debate between him and Itoje now over after basing it off this weekend's performances? Like, who would each of you be picking for your Lions captain?
Yeah, it's an interesting debate, isn't it? I think as skipper on a Lions tour, you've got to be going on tour. Again, we're not going on tour with the Lions this summer, but you've got to be assured of your starting place, or close to. You've got to have a pretty good idea he's going to be starting in that test side. And they've, Warren has certainly done that over the tours that he's coached. Now, on one hand, Warren, he won't pick on sentiment. But on the other hand, when you're talking about someone like Alun Jones, the guy just continues to amaze. Like he's hasn't played too much rugby. He's been out injured and he's come back into the test side. Me and Dell spoke about Ken Owens before you came on, Dan. in the same breath. You know, hasn't played much rugby, been injured, come back into Test rugby, and bang, you can see they are Test players. They are proper Test match players. And like for me, Alun Wyn, I would love to see him captain the Lions. I think he deserves it. I think his career deserves it. I think his form deserves it. It's just Warren has to be sure that he's going to be in his starting 15. And, you know, we've talked about James Ryan. We've talked about Maro Itoje. You know, pick two out of those three. It's a fascinating combination. But for me, Alun Wyn is leading that race for me.
Dan, who do you think?
I think, well, you don't want to see any of the guys get injured, but that's always got a massive part to play in it. Do you know what I mean? You know, we've seen it so many times before where boys have been selected and, you know, literally games before, or, you know, the warm-up games, they've literally had to go home. So that's always a massive factor. Jamie said, guys won't pick on sentiment. Personally, I'd like to see Al, you know, be a tour captain, but I don't know the other guys personally. Just be a massive pat on the back for his career. But Gats, you know, going back to the last tour, Warby wasn't Wales's captain going into the last tour. Alun Wyn was, but he picked the best guy that he thought was going to do the best job. And he picked obviously Sam to be the tour captain again. So he'll just pick who he thinks will be the best tour, you know, best captain for the job. It'd be interesting. It's going to be interesting.
You know what? I'd chuck someone like Ken Owens into the mix there as well, because the guy has toured with the Lions before. He's a top player. I think he's starting hooker in that side at the minute. I don't see other hookers in any of the other countries challenging for that starting spot, and that includes Jamie George, who just hasn't played enough rugby for me this season. You know, he'd be a candidate for me as well, and Hoggy as well. Warren rarely picks backs as captain. I don't think he ever has in his career. He's always wanted the forwards to do that job. But Stuart Hogg has been an unbelievable player this year for club and country, and is leading Scotland well. So, you know, I think his name must come into the conversation as well.
This is a really it's kind of picking up on what you said, Jamie. If we have the three tests here, there's no tour. But how important is the captain then?
Probably not very.
Surely it's still.
I genuinely believe that. Like,
but it's a total privilege to be like Lions captain.
There's that. There's the gravitas. There's the honor. There's all that. But when it comes to match day and a training week, how important is a captain if you're not going on like a 2-month tour with 15 games? You know what I mean? Is there 4 or 5 guys that could do that? I don't know.
Well, Dylan, who would you pick at the moment? Who would you pick as captain?
I don't know. I'd look at the winner of the Six Nations. It's not going to be Italy, and I don't believe it will be France. And then I think, you know, history for me kind of shows that the winner of the Six Nations usually dominates numbers in that squad. And I think if you want the majority of that team to work with someone that they've worked with before, you would look at their captain. So if England were going to win this tournament, I would say you can't look past a couple of English players as your front runners. If Wales win this tournament, you can't look past a couple of Welsh players. Don't think the Irish are going to win it. No, but genuine, you know, it's a numbers game. It's
and let's remember, those numbers aren't going to be a large touring party. You can't envisage that. It's going to be, you know, Gats's match day squad plus probably 5 or 6 other players. It's not going to be a normal size Lions touring party like if they are going to host it in the UK. And
the other thing is, it's going to be a little bit different because this whole COVID, you know, playing how we're doing things. You might as well just go with tried and tested. You know what I mean? That's where it's safe to go with an Alun Wyn. It's just nice and easy. He knows what he's going to get. And if it's only 3 tests and they've got, you know, 4 weeks to play those 3 tests, it's just nice and easy. I can see it going that way.